decades of profligate spending by the US government that has now resulted in the debt ceiling showdown, which I suppose has been delayed until December. Thanks for the Christmas present there. Let's just push it off, kick that can down the road a little bit. I'm not sure if that's 100% final yet. We'll dig back into that. But in case, sometime between now and December, this issue should pop up. They're actually well, who knows if they were really elected, but there are people in Congress who actually do seriously advocate minting a $1 trillion platinum coin to balance the spending that is out of control. Well, hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics with a quick update on the proposal to balance decades of profligate spending by the US government that has now resulted in the debt ceiling showdown, which I suppose has been delayed until December. Thanks for the Christmas present there. Let's just push it off, kick that can down the road a little bit. I'm not sure if that's 100% final yet. We'll dig back into that. But in case, sometime between now and December, this issue should pop up. They're actually well, who knows if they were really elected, but there are people in Congress who actually do seriously advocate minting a $1 trillion platinum coin to balance the spending that is out of control. And we will dig into that today. Quick note before we get started, thank you to BlackRock Silver for bringing us today's episode. And especially since I know we have a lot of mining executives in our audience, I'd like to mention that BlackRock is pleased to announce that Andrew Kipe, geologist, has been appointed to serve as an independent director on the company's board, over 25 years of experience within the mining business, which goes a long way, especially when you already have made as much progress as BlackRock has made. So congratulations to them, and especially in today's hyperinflationary environment. Now, I wonder what would happen if they minted, that would give you a good question if you want to call BlackRock. See what would happen to the price of silver if they minted a $1 trillion silver coin. But in either case, so far, let's get back to the script, because this is the coin that could avert a federal debt default. Now, if this had been silver, then obviously that would have triggered Rosty's silver investigation over at the CFTC. Obviously, we don't want to wake up and wreck, because that would not be helpful. But an increasingly vocal chorus of commentators, well, that's exciting, is saying that the US Treasury should hashtag mint the coin. Oh my, OMG, I'm gonna hashtag mint the coin. Wonder who's signing their name off on that. To issue a small platinum token, give it a face value of $1 trillion, and then give it to the Federal Reserve, which is not a government institution. I might add, this is actually a private institution that not only has stolen the power to mint the world's, or digitally print the world's reserve currency. So now you would be creating a fraudulent means of wealth by the fraudulent treasury to give to the bankers who will give nothing for it. And we'll just be getting a free ounce of platinum, or maybe it'll be a 5-ouncer, 5 trillion ouncer, who knows? This is Yahoo News, not The Onion, I might add. Why it matters. I mean, it's obviously the beginning question is, why would it matter that people would be silly enough to actually seriously discuss this as a means of resolving the debt ceiling limit? Now, I might add, even if Mitch McConnell does agree to push this baby off a couple months to December, possibly the only thing more irresponsible than just annihilating it in totality. But I mean, aside from that, why does it matter? Because the gambit, if successful, would prevent the potentially catastrophic debt default that, thanks to congressional intransigence on both sides of the aisle, is looming fast. I guess what I meant to say before is that nowhere in there have I heard any actual talks about reducing spending. But of course, that would be unpatriotic to do so. But when a U.S. Treasury Secretary is tasked with averting a fast-looming potential cataclysm, she's got to consider all potential options, even those that seem bizarre at first light. So I would suggest, you could at least consider cutting spending, as bizarre at first light as that may seem. Because the Treasury, I was going to skip this paragraph, but I see my new homeland, Mexico there. Treasury has reportedly considered and rejected the platinum coin idea, fortunately, because obviously that would be the dumbest thing possible. But Treasury Secretary Robert Rubin said in 1995 that using the exchange stabilization fund to bail out Mexico would be impossible. And he ended up doing exactly that just a few weeks later. So maybe they actually are thinking about minting this coin. I mean, after all, the Exchange Stabilization Fund, as I hear it through the grapevine, they're the ones smashing this whole thing over the top. So even these nitwit bozos at JP Morgan, which, by the way, wait till you hear the list of witnesses, the Department of Justice, they have everyone outside of Santa Claus has flipped against JP Morgan. A few things I wasn't able to tell you for about a year or two, but it sure looks like a lot of people who work on that criminal enterprise precious metals JP Morgan gold and silver desk were working with people who actually were government agents, including one FBI agent who they're trying to get his testimony discounted from court. It doesn't look like it's going so well on that. But even those fools, they often don't realize, they just think they're geniuses, but it's really often the Exchange Stabilization Fund that is doing the even bigger fraud that facilitates JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and Rusty the Boss to combine up for Iraq. A conspiracy to collude against the integrity of our financial markets. But we will settle that in court in due time once the court system is returned, and however long that takes, well, I got some time. How it works, how this absolutely asininely silly plan works. The Fed, which is owned by banks like Goldman Sachs and Rothschilds, so we should think maybe about trusting that. Once given the coin, would just credit the Treasury's account with $1 trillion. That would not count towards the national debt. That sounds like a three-card Monty accounting trick that maybe Congress learned during the Enron trials. The scheme looks legally feasible if you're okay with the fact that, the Constitution, any laws are completely fraudulent, although it would surely be challenged in the courts. Why bother having them if not? Anyway, driving the news, Bloomberg executive editor Joe Weisenthal. Now, how do we do this diplomatically? I'm sure Joe is a nice guy, although with due respect, I actually sent this to my old clerk, Kenny, who put up with me on my trading days back in the New York Stock Exchange, whereas watching my massive option position get pounded after a spoof down in 2011 of the silver price from 50. And then later, it rallied back up in the year to 44, got pounded from there in the face of another similar debt ceiling debate when they first came up with this ridiculous idea of the $1 trillion platinum coin. So Kenny and I would giggle at Joe Weisenthal, who was then at Business Insider. Again, I'm sure he's a nice guy, but I mean, I don't know, if I were commenting on Fed policy while I was still in high school and didn't know what I was talking about, I'm sure people would giggle at me. I'm sure Joe might be watching this video and thinking what a fool I am right now. And, we'll see, maybe one of us will be right. I mean, more recent converts do include Paul Krugman. So, and former Mint director, Philip Deal. Wow. I gotta check what Phil's been drinking. And now Congress, including Rashida Tlaib and Jerry, my man, Nadler, his name's popping up, getting a lot of press lately. They all agree that the debt ceiling serves no useful fiscal purpose because they're fools. Or maybe because they're right. It does serve no useful purpose when it's just lifted. The actual purpose was to stop the spending, stop stealing money from your constituents and leading to inevitable bubble collapse. But the $1 trillion coin would effectively take that cudgel out of the hands of the politicians. The other side, the $1 trillion coin would allow the government to spend money without borrowing or raising via taxation. That could be a dangerous precedent to set, especially now that we're deep into the pandemic, Federal Reserve theft, because even if it's legally sound, no one knows whether it's physically possible to do something that stupid. in just 3 weeks. I mean, the US Mint, they can't even get American Eagles in. So to mint a $1 trillion platinum coin could back them up. Oh, here. I have not read this one yet, so I'm going to improv this here along with my Acadian friends. Both sides of the aisle. No, I don't want that Google ad, which doesn't seem to go away. But that's all right, because even the former US Mint director behind the controversial law explains why a platinum coin could avoid a major crisis. And I might add, you'll see in many of these stories, they talk about, there's like a 1997 law that technically authorizes this. Now, I did look it up, and I guess you could say it does give them the authority. Oh, this is by Joe, again, no less. This was back in 2013. But that's kind of like we've seen, you know, government can say, well, it's now a fine if you cross the street during daylight or nighttime hours, or if you don't take a experimental toxic drug, because drugs are bad, or the DARE program. If you don't take that in you, that's a crime now, and they could even use force against you. So there is some silly law that I suppose could be interpreted in there. Philip Deal, one of the many U.S. Mint directors, Ed Moy, and there is a new U.S. Mint director as of October 1st, now that things are changing with new gold and silver coins that have counterfeiting strips. But here, 2 Democrats say they want to mint a coin to solve the debt ceiling showdown. My man Jerry is on it. Would prevent the bipartisan, end the partisan showdowns. Well, I think we've all seen enough of that. Congress has 90 days to raise it before the U.S. runs out. Now, even if Mitch McConnell did agree to delay it, that doesn't mean that, I mean, they're just going to spend like sailors until December, I would imagine. Or else if they don't, that means government spending will be tapered. Similar to how the bond yields are rising, and if the only group buying it was the Fed, it sounds like maybe they're tapering and not telling you. They were lying to your face again. Go believe that while their Goldman Sachs insiders would front run it before you find out. But that's why you can hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi told reporters on Tuesday that Nadler raised the possibility of minting the coin in a meeting with Democrats, and she laughed him out of her fucking office. Although when Republicans were refusing to raise the limit under Barack Obama, Nadler told Insider he disappointed the administration. He was disappointed they would rule it out. One of the few bargaining chips it has. Why are these bargaining chips? Why are the constituents used as collateral bargaining chips? Well, we're going to make a deal here because it's good for our side. I don't believe that is what the congressional pledge authenticated. I never hear that during the, oh God, Biden gives. It's supposed to be a quick one. Anyway, the things that never come out until after they're elected. Here, Ted Douche says, fellow House Democrat Deutsch, I'm not trying to be a smart ass. I'm so used to call it Deutsch when I see Deutsche Bank, I think. So anyway, I apologize. I didn't mean to offend anybody. No, he's a U.S. representative. I take it back. Fair enough. Accused fellow House Democrat Rep. Rashida Tlaib of besmirching an ally and engaging in anti-Semitic remarks after she delivered a condemnation of Israel during a debt funding debate over Israel's Iron Dome. The House voted on Thursday in favor of a standalone provision to fund Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system after Democratic leadership was forced to pull it from a broader spending bill after objections from progressives. So, wow, $1 trillion platinum coins, maybe that is going to be used to fund the Iron Dome. How ironic that is. Although she was against that. She was urging Congress to reject the funding bill, calling Israel a violent apartheid system. Wow. A lot of action on that. So that does raise a question. If we're running into the debt ceiling, maybe could one of the agreements be to not fund the Iron Dome missile defense system for another country, but you're printing away, destroying the value of the currency for your own constituents? Just a thought. Maybe we could get some bipartisan support. Biden delivers remarks from the White House on the jobs report. Oh my God. Well, if that comes on while we're here, we'll go live to it. Even though this is a pre-recorded one. That's not important because we have breaking Jerry Nadler news. This is from October 1st, so not breaking today, perhaps. But Jerry Nadler's duty to history would be to publish on a website without so many pop-up ads. Probe the State Department's failure to deport Nazis. Now, on that one, I can sport that with Jerry, because I've studied how following World War II, the terrorists known as the Dulles brothers, Alan Foster and, John Foster and Alan, I don't know what Alan's middle name was, but two of the real traitors of American history. I mean, when you read about Operation Paperclip and how following the war, there was this fight between the Dulles brothers and the Russians to get their top scientists to implement a lot of things like MK Ultra that later became used to rule out things like the pandemic and all the monetary theft, September 11th included. So they had this thing called Operation Paperclip, where as long as the Nazi scientists were able to do whatever the Dulles brothers thought was great, they were set up, they got houses, jobs, and quite a good life so that they could continue suppressing in really horrifying ways what their own people, which anyway, so I'm glad that Jerry is on sport of that because there are a lot of these folks living even in the United States. Go figure. You would think such things wouldn't be tolerated today, but I mean, you need someone to roll out the forced mandates that the current administration is dishing out, especially in places like Australia. Not looking good there. Actually, a big mining district. So if we read yesterday about how many of the Australian mines getting shut down because of that trucker shutdown. So they can't get anybody to deliver the silver or the gold. And that's a big chunk, which means there's going to be less on the total global supply. And if the LBMA was already scared and shitting their pants because they were running out of metal back in February, whoa, that might be how the bullion banks are feeling right now. That may be why Joe Biden is still late for this press conference. Or why really the plan now is to have Joe Weisenthal tell you everything you need to mint about the $1 trillion coin. This is really propaganda that I do believe would make the Nazis proud. I won't get distracted and go over to CNBC right now because I understand I get carried away there sometimes. I get it. Although I did find this cool chart here that shows U.S. credit default swap rates. And as you can see, while it had been somewhat docile earlier in the year, spiking recently, right as we hit September. It's interesting. I wonder why that could be. And this doesn't go too far back. So still low historically, but we see the amount of fraud that is required just to even cover up the preceding fraud, and evidenced by the overnight repurchase agreements by the fraudulent Federal Reserve. Look at how low these things were. There you go, basically at zero. And then something happened this year. Looks like someone's doing a lot of something. And then here's even August. And then in September, you can see that spiked as well as the repo amounts. We're hitting records. Now, with all that said, well, I can't offer legal financial advice. I am not that credentialed. That's actually part of why I left Wall Street. I was on a trading desk where we just bought or sold and made money or lost money, and that was your ass on the line. And then when I started getting into more of this regulatory nonsense, I was like, I'm out of here. This is ridiculous. So now I do more important things like minting a silver chopper Ben. You see that comes in multiple sizes. There is Ben throwing $100 bills out of the helicopter. Now, there is a rumor that he has a bag of $1 trillion platinum coins inside his pouch. I'm not sure. But anyway, as you can see, I'm leaving the silly stuff like the Fed and all that behind in my life. Maybe we'll even leave that behind for now, because in the end, I do subscribe to that. What we focus our attention on becomes more dominant in our universe. So rather than wasting too much more time with these silly things out of the US government, I will end this by saying thank you again to BlackRock Silver go over there. If you do have questions, wondering why they're looking for silver, why someone would do that in these hyperinflationary times, you can give Andrew a call at 604-817-6044. Tell him Arcadian Chris sent you on over. And with that said, hope you're having a great day out there. Exciting things happening. Don't worry about that ridiculous COMEX spot price. It doesn't mean diddly squat. As you're finding out, you see these guys are panicking, which means you're getting closer to payday. And with that said, I will see you again soon.